In episode 2 of Success is a Myth, I sat down with my good buddy Kensington Rhodes, who is a co-founder at Viddy Studio. Viddy Studio is a software that helps you cut out all the bad takes in your scripted videos. Now, I enjoyed hearing a lot about Kensington's journey from when he was miserable working a job that he hated to now doing what he loves and having no regrets along the way. And not only as a friend, but as a consumer of his product, I truly believe he's going places, and I think this is one you're not going to want to miss out on. What would you say is a limiting belief that holds a lot of people back?
Yeah, for me, the biggest thing that held me back for a long time was just thinking that something wasn't ready, whether it was me, life circumstances, whatever. It just felt like I needed to put more into prep. But in reality, I look back on it and I'm like, I was ready to jump into this probably a year earlier than I actually did. And if I had done that, then I would be further along than I am right now. So if I'm talking to my younger self, I'm going to say, you're feeling the itch to jump in, just do it, and you'll figure it out along the way. Not that it's bad to plan, but it's so common to hesitate for a long time, especially me. Like, I like to really think things through, and then when I make a decision, I stick to it hard. But I already knew where things were headed. I already knew where things were going. So if I had just jumped in earlier, then I'd be way further along now. And I would have been, this is ridiculously fulfilling. I would have been way happier, way more fulfilled. Life would have been much better. And, our company would be further too. So if you feel the itch, in my opinion, if you feel the itch to be an entrepreneur, just do it now.
Dive in.
Most people are not meant to do this. And so if you're feeling called toward it, if you feel like this is what you got to do, go. Jump in. And it'll be hard, but you're going to go through that hard point no matter when you start, so just go.
Take me back 4 or 5 years ago. Take yourself back to when the people you were around, the environment you were in, and just kind of your day-to-day, what it involved and kind of how that's evolved to now. What would you tell that kid, that person?
Let's see, it's April 2025, so 5 years ago, we were in the deep, dark days of COVID, and that was the first time that I was something is seriously wrong with the way that I'm living my life. And not that I was doing anything immoral or unethical or anything like that. I just was working a regular job at a cool company. No hate to that old job. They've done great things, and I loved my coworkers, and the founders of that company were awesome. But it was during COVID. Gyms are closed. Can't see people. Stuck at home. I just was I got to do something with my time. So I started reading lots of books. And I think the two most impactful books early on, because I flew through, I think I read 60 books during COVID. It was literally just audiobooks playing all day long, or physical books too, but mostly audiobooks. And I was just trying to numb the weirdness of COVID. It was such a weird time, and I love being around people.
So weird.
Yeah, being stuck in my house.
It shifted the whole world upside down.
Yeah.
And not only on a society level, but on an individual level, it changed the way that we view everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it had a huge impact on me. I felt like life was pretty good. And then COVID hit, and I was well, I have, all I can do is sit and think. So I tried to fill that space with books, and then what do these books do? They make me think more. So I read The Alchemist, and I was wait, you got to go chase your personal legend. And really resonated with me, the concept of a personal legend. I don't know. You read that book?
I have not.
Okay.
I've heard about a lot of good things about it.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. I've read it a few times. think it's one of those books that like my dad recommended growing up. And really basically it's a story of a kid who has a good life, but he feels called to do something grander, greater, whatever, however you want to put it. And so he like completely abandons his past life and goes to do this great thing.
And that resonated with you.
Yeah, but he goes and does this next great thing, and it reaches this point of where that's like he's like coasting there and it's doing well, and then the calling comes again where he's like, I got to do the next great thing. And this happens a few times until eventually he discovers like the actual thing he's meant to do. And doesn't mean that any of the steps along the way were bad places to be. It's just meant
stones.
Yeah. And it's cool. Like there's a lot of different things you can learn about like from the specific steps and all this stuff. And but the main thing that I took away from it was like this phase that I'm in right now is a step it needs to be over. Like I need to move to the next phase. And then I read like 4 Hour Work Week, which is a little bit outdated, but the whole concept of like owning your time and building something for you is not even the main point of that book, but that's like what really got me excited. I was like, I'm building somebody else's dream, and like feels like I'm grinding down my own soul for the sake of building this thing. And so by like reading those books, like kind of awakened my mind to like, this is not the phase I want to be in, but I didn't know what I was going to do next. I didn't know where to go or what to do or what the next phase looked like. And so I spent like the next year trying to figure it out. But as I tried to figure it out, I kept working that job, and I just became more and more depressed because I knew that I was not where I should be. I knew that like there was something else I was supposed to do. And man, that's so hard to do something day in and day out that you know is not where you're supposed to be. It's like, at least for me, it was like incredibly depressing, and eventually led to a point of like even having suicidal thoughts. And like, I just felt like I was betraying myself by continuing down this path, and that there's something I was meant to do, but I wasn't doing it. And so knowing that I was in the wrong place was driving me insane. And there are many days where I would like think about, there's like a peak nearby that you can drive up to over here. I'd think about like just driving up there and driving off the cliff and just, it's done. But I was always like, no, my problems are not things that I need to escape with suicide. My problems are because I'm stuck in this phase I need to get out of. And so I knew like I just need to get out of this phase, and most of my problems will evaporate. And I was right, because after about a year of that struggle, I bought a round trip ticket to Guatemala that was like 90 days and convinced one of my buddies to go with me. And then right before I quit that job and moved to Guatemala for the summer, they actually fired me. Like, I was going to put in my 2 weeks. The next week, they fired me the Thursday before, so they beat me by 6 business days. And it turned out to be a real benefit, because I got like paid out severance, and I just got to move on totally cleanly and move into the next phase of life. And so I went and did that trip in Guatemala, traveled all around the country, picked up a little bit of Spanish, lived with the locals for the most part. An incredible reset experience. And then I came home and I was like, well, now what? What do I do now? Because I've now like gotten out of this normal job, and I've moved into this. First I was like, maybe I'll be a digital nomad, and I was like, I don't want to. I love these languages, I love these other countries, but I don't want to be on the move all the time, as fun as it was. And so I just spent some time thinking about like, okay, what do I do next? And then I helped Mike, who's my current co-founder, but at the time,
one of the best freestylers ever.
Yeah, he's dope. But basically Mike called me and he was like, hey, we need an extra guy at this event. And it turned out that it was like a mastermind for entrepreneurs. And I was literally just like I wasn't even an extra cameraman. I was like a gear hauler. Like I just moved stuff around and
Just an extra body to help.
yeah. Literally just an extra body. And so I went on that with Mike and his team, and the things that people were saying at the mastermind, I was like, this is the thing that I've been like chasing. This is like that hole that I've been feeling in myself of like, I know that I'm not supposed to be doing what I'm doing now, but I don't know what it is that I'm supposed to be doing. After hearing all these incredible entrepreneurs who were like, 7-figure, 8-figure, some cases 9-figure entrepreneurs speaking up on a stage, talking about business, I was like, that is what I'm supposed to do. And so not long after that, I joined Mike's production company as basically the sales guy, but it turned into doing everything because that's what you got to do in a small company. And I've never looked back since. Like, as soon as I jumped into it, I was like, this is so right. Like, more fulfilling, anything I've ever done, harder than anything I've ever done. But I now have the exact opposite feeling that I had 5 years ago, of feeling like I was working hard, but in a lane that was just like grinding my soul to dust. Now on the other side, I'm making less money than I was there, but like I'm ridiculously fulfilled. I feel like whatever potential it is that I have, I'm like rapidly moving towards reaching that potential.
What is it that fulfills you?
It's a good question. I think a big part of it is that being an entrepreneur is incredibly terrifying. It's like there's a whole bunch of books about it, but there's no real like step-by-step handbook that actually works for every situation. Like, it's always a unique situation, whatever business you're trying to build. And so every day I have to like tackle my fear of like the unknown and fear of like not being good enough. And then you're also required to grow a ton. Like, you have to be constantly looking to improve. You can never just rest on what you've done so far, which is not true with a normal job. Like, the normal job, sure, the beginning's a little hectic, but once you get up to speed, you can kind of, what to do.
Through.
Yeah. Doesn't mean that you're being a bum. Doesn't mean that you're not doing stuff. You're doing your job, but
of course.
Like, you're not actively like I'm constantly in my head trying to think of how to improve, or I'm like in the moment of executing. So it's like there's not really a lot of mental downtime as an entrepreneur, is how I'd put it, I guess. And so because of that, like, my growth in the last 2.5 years as a person, dramatic, like so much faster than any other period of my life by far. Like, if you were to graph it, life would be going like this at different times. But since doing this, it's like just constantly up. And there's still some little dips and stuff, but I'm like firmly in the hockey stick moment of my personal progression. And
That's
I
great.
think entrepreneurship is like, I wouldn't call it the fuel, but I'd call it the path to that insane growth. And it's a weird mix of being very, I'm like happy with the growth that I've had. I'm very fulfilled, and at the same time, totally unsatisfied with where I am. And
hungry but never satisfied. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Or hungry but satisfied. But like, I feel what you're saying. I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. So it's the complete opposite feeling of where I was 5 years ago, where I was, what would you say the opposite of that would be? Like, satisfied but ridiculously hungry. Like, things were taken care of. I knew what to do on the daily and whatever, but
You got home and felt like there was something more?
yeah, just felt so empty, hollow, stale.
Stale, I think, is a really good word for
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Like, my whole life was stale. It felt like I was living like, I don't know, like there was like a muted down version of life, just where like the highs were lower, but the lows were way lower too. And whereas now it's like the most difficult times, I'm still good, but the best times, phenomenal. And my baseline is like humming way above average right now.
Take me through what Landon taught us in Happy Creative, the blue sky session.
Yeah.
Take me through your experience. Well, take me through, obviously, first, like, what it is at a base level, and like kind of how like you interpreted that and what like your experience in that.
There's 3 components, right? It's what would you build if you had no fear, money was no object, and you couldn't fail. Does that sound right? Does that sound like the 3?
That sounds right.
I have them written down. We can double check. What would you build if money was no object, you had no fear, and you couldn't fail? And it's basically like a brainstorming exercise of the life that you want to build, or for entrepreneurs specifically, it's like the company that you want to build, but it can apply to anything. It can apply to, a new relationship. It can apply to a new phase of life. Like, it doesn't, at least my interpretation is, it doesn't have to be business only. Of course, that's like extremely important to me, so that's where I think first. But so it's those 3 questions: no fear, money's no obstacle, and you couldn't fail. And before we did that exercise with Landon, I felt like I kind of already had done this on my own, not using those same words, but over the past it was about a year ago that we did it. So it was like over the previous 4 years, I had kind of already figured it out. And so when we went through that exercise with Landon, I was like, I'm doing it right now, which is like, if I couldn't fail, money didn't matter. And now I'm spacing the third one.
If money wasn't an option,
it's like hard to remember.
If you couldn't
fail.
If fear wasn't an option,
That's what it is.
if money was unlimited and you couldn't fail.
Yeah.
I think those are the 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
We just looked it
It's
up.
like
and we had to...
fear, failure, money.
Fear, failure, money.
Yeah.
If those 3 weren't factors.
Yeah. Anyway, so Landon was doing that session with us, talking about it, and it just made me realize, I'm already doing it. Like, building Viddy Studio has been ridiculously hard. So I'm already overcoming the fear. Up to this point, it hasn't made me any money. So I'm already ignoring the money side. And, it could technically fail, but we've kept it going through sheer force of will, and also through help from a lot of mentors and people who care about us. But it was pretty cool to do that exercise and realize, no, I'm actually already living in alignment with this. But it wasn't something that just came easy. I went through that intense period of like self-loathing and suicidal thoughts and just not knowing what to do with life. But I came out on the other side like, this is the best my life has ever been in so many areas, despite it being a very difficult time in terms of how much work needs to be done.
Well, take me through what Viddy Studio is and what you have, what your ambitions for it are. Like, where do you see it going?
Yeah. Well, Viddy Studio is incredibly important to me for 2 reasons. These are just my personal reasons specifically, but you probably felt this, but ever since I was a kid, I always wanted to build something great that would not just be appreciated by other people, but benefit other people. And I didn't know what that would look like. I didn't know what I could build. I didn't know what I was capable of. I didn't know whatever. And along the way, I realized I never personally identified as a creative person or a creator, but some of my favorite people around me were creators. I already talked about Mike. Obviously, he's my co-founder and cousin, and we grew up together. And so seeing how creative he is, I always wanted to help him reach his creative dreams, but I didn't know how to help. So by building Viddy Studio, I'm literally helping him build his dreams. We're doing it together, which is pretty dope. And but then I've had a lot of other friends that are creators. You know, one of my closest friends, Matt, that I lived with in college, he used to film whenever our friend group would go do stuff. And then he tried to put out a video every week, and we would all get together as friends and we would watch the videos together, and it was like a screening with all the friends, right? It was like a 3 to 5 minute YouTube video, and
videos are the funnest when you watch them and make them with your closest friends. Yeah, like dude. My favorite videos I've ever made are the ones that like, hey, either have not seen the light of day or they have, but like 10 people have seen them, but like those 10 people were like the 10 people I made it with, or whatever. Yeah, exactly. And so we used to do that with our friend group, and like his videos were so awesome, and we got to watch him improve as a creator every week, and now he's turned that into like a crazy career. He's like just ridiculously talented and capable in like all things marketing, not just video, but video is where he started. But eventually, like, he got to the point where it was just too much work to keep pumping out a video every single week, because he'd have to film it all and then like take hundreds of hours of clips and filter them down and turn them into a little 3 to 5 minute clip. It's like a whole thing. It was crazy. And you know, we lived together, and he'd be like up in his room editing till like 4 a.m. every night for like 2-3 years. He was just grinding. And like to this day, Mike and Matt are my 2 favorite creators. Like, they make, obviously there's a personal connection there, but like their style just, it's probably why we're friends and why we're close, but like their style just hits for me. Like, it's just, I love the way they do it. And so I've personally loved building Viddy Studio, because originally, like, my reason for joining was I wanted to help people like Mike and Matt to be able to create more videos, but not just any videos, like keep their same level of quality and even improve over time. And so that's why I have loved joining Viddy Studio. That's like my personal story with it. Yeah. And basically the way that Viddy first came about, the way that it started was actually before I joined the company. Mike and our other co-founder, Race, and our other friend, Truman, basically they created Viddy Studio because they needed it. They had a production company. Mike and Truman had a production company, and they did a lot of shoots, and we've all heard like the phrase shoot to edit, right? Where you're like, you're trying to shoot only what you need, so you don't have to spend all the time cutting out unnecessary footage.
Yeah, and which is a great practice to have. The downside of that is sometimes you don't get the best take possible because you're just trying to get only the good takes. And so they would shoot, and they wanted to get the good takes, and they get to the end and they're like, well, we've got 5 hours of footage that we got to comb through. That's somewhere between 4 to 10 hours worth of just chopping. That's not even the color grading. That's not the music. That's not the B-roll. That's not any of the dynamic transitions. That's not any of the secret sauce of a real editor. That's just
the culling.
Yeah, it's just the culling
just
of clips.
The culling
right?
of the clips, yeah.
And so they're like, man, it'd be so nice if we had something that would get rid of this cleanup portion, this chopping portion, this culling portion. And that's how Viddy Studio was born. They hit up Race because he had built their website for him. Was like, could you build this tool? And then pretty soon that tool turned into a whole different business. And then we all pivoted from the production company into Viddy a little over a year ago. Because the first version was ready and it was time to get testers. And that's about the time that you and I met.
Yeah, we met about then. And then I was one of your testers. And sometimes I feel bad about how much I like hated your first version. But the version you guys are on now works so good.
Way better, right?
And my story with Viddy is, oh man, I made a YouTube video 90 minutes of recording of just the raw file of recording was 90 minutes of me just talking to the camera, recording the same thing, or recording the lines, the whole bit. And Viddy took that. It would have taken me 3 hours to go through and find the best stuff within a 90-minute clip. And Viddy did it in like seconds, really. And I think it turned out to be a 12-minute YouTube video. And actually, to this date, the funny part is, it's got the most views on my YouTube channel.
Which is pretty sick.
But no, yeah, that was the biggest testament to me, where I was like, dude, I've got to like use this more, because it is saving me. It's entirely solving a problem, which is like what you should do in business. Like you found a problem, you found a killer solution for it. Yeah.
I appreciate it, dude.
No, it's great.
You've been instrumental in our growth. Like, yeah, when we had you test that first version, we built it based off of assumptions. We built it with an idea of what we wanted, thinking that it might be helpful for other people. And that can get you started, right? But if you want to build a software, or you want to build some sort of product, or even any kind of business, really, like, you need to validate what you're building. And so having people like you test it, use it, give us feedback, like, that was such a critical moment in what we were doing. And the things that you told us, like, we then took it to other creators, other testers, got their feedback, and it actually was incredibly helpful and informed like a lot of adjustments and tweaks that we made. And like, your brutally honest feedback was like exactly what we needed. And I'm pretty sure I told you, like, when we had that first call, I was like, I don't care how much you rip it to shreds, I just want you to tell the truth, because I'm not trying to be all emotional about this and protective about it. Like, we want to make it great. And in order for it to be great,
and you're not afraid to hear the whatever is about it. Yeah, I remember. At first I just was not understanding OBS, and I still don't. To be completely fair, I don't understand that stupid app.
Dude,
but then it just kept on bringing
me neither, to be honest. It's a beast.
It brought me issue after issue after issue. The video quality, in my experience, again, this is my experience. The video quality was like so subpar. It was like so far below my standard. Yeah. The audio never matched up. It was like, it was an extra thing to go through. And my style is, I like to just have the camera, the audio go into post, and then you've created the SRT version, which lay it on top of your timeline, shows you where to cut. You're done. So, no.
Yeah, we going away from such a difficult onboarding process was a smart move.
Yeah, the onboarding process too.
And we've actually leaned more heavily into that. Now, instead of you needing to connect it to your computer and needing a cam link or a video capture card and like OBS and getting all the settings right, all these
relying
things.
on external hardware and software.
Yeah,
out of your control. Yeah.
We've switched it now where it can work with any camera. You just run it off of it's browser based. It's not even an app. And you asked like what's coming next with Viddy is we're trying to get it to be like mobile friendly so that you can run it on your phone and be able to shoot wherever. Like, it should make it so you can be a lot more mobile with your setup. Like,
yeah,
obviously you're not going to use it for like skiing videos or anything like that, but instead of having to bring your whole laptop to do any sort of shoot, now if you just got your camera and a phone, if you have your script done or your bullet points done, like, you can rip it right there. And
who's Viddy for? Who's your target creator or audience, if not a creator? Who's your target?
People just like you, professional creators, and specifically professional creators who make any sort of planned or scripted videos. So talking heads, courses, ads where you're going to have a script. Those are probably the most common way to use it. Of course, like with the new phone version, it'll actually be even easier to do like scripted videos that aren't just talking heads, where like you move around, and you've seen some of Mike's videos that are in that style where like he moves locations. That's tough with the old version of Viddy, but with the phone friendly, with the mobile friendly version,
Pull it out. Yeah.
In fact, we tested it, and if you go to Mike's Instagram, his most recent video about your mess is your message.
I saw that one. Yeah.
We were testing that concept of being able to move around with Viddy instead of just having a stable, fixed setup.
It's more dynamic too. It's another way to not be in the same spot the whole time, which is, like you said, it's hard. It adds in a lot of moving parts, literally. But no, it's good.
Yeah, it's cool. You know, we're building slowly, and we're just improving it mostly based off feedback from people like you and other users that we have that are using it. And we're working right now a lot on dialing in our messaging, because we don't want to just be like, in all reality, we didn't just make this to save time. The real goal of this was to be able to have better videos and more of them. And nowhere in there is like just save time, right? Like, it's actually like our ideal goal is that people will be able to reach their creative potential. And Viddy's just a tool to help you get there. Like, Viddy doesn't make you creative. It's just another tool to help you get there. And sometimes tools can really help, and sometimes they can slow you down. And that's why, instead of making it extremely complicated, we tried to keep it very simple so that it's something that can't really complicate your setup. Unlike the original version that you tried that was pretty complex.
Fun times, man.
Yeah.
Fun times. I remember we had several phone calls trying to figure that out.
Like 5 of them.
More than several.
I screen recorded some of them. Eventually, I deleted them because there were like 30 gigs of screen recordings. I was like,
it was like 2 hours every single time. And I remember like part of that very last call within that time period, and then like the next day, I sent you a very long text about like, if I'm going to use Viddy, this is what I need it to be. and again, it was nothing personal against you or what you had built or what Mike and the rest of the team had built. I was just like, this is too much for me to rely on like 3 pieces of external software, hardware, whatever. The onboarding was too much.
Yeah, it was.
Matching everything, downloading, and it was actually, I look back on it now, and it was fun to experiment. But I was like, eventually I was like, I need something that like helps me make the videos. Yeah. And it does. It absolutely does now. Like that specific audio video on YouTube that I made with it. Man, it speeds up the process so much. My point that I make to a lot of people, whether they're like in the creative space or not, whenever I'm about to create something with somebody, I'm like, a lot of people are really hesitant to put in extra work pre-production.
Yeah. And
I say, look, for every hour of pre-production you put in, you're saving yourself like 3 to 5 hours of post-production. Yeah. And Viddy is like the perfect example of that, because I don't even script my videos. I roughly I bullet point and put that into the Viddy software and the website, and then it takes out the most boring, like you were saying, the most boring part of editing, which is just culling, just finding the best stuff.
Yeah. So. And it's not the part that's your moneymaker anyway. You know, the way you color grade, the way you do sound design, your transitions,
storytelling,
the B-roll, the storytelling. Like that's the moneymaker for an editor. And I mean, like that culling portion, if you know what you're looking for, you don't even have to actually be an editor. You can just literally someone can just teach you the hotkeys for like cut and ripple delete and be like, hey, you know, so it's not like, it's not this part of editing that anybody's going to miss. In fact, we get you to the creative part faster. And that's really what we're we want to see the creators thrive. And part of thriving is being in flow more often. And if you're getting out of flow just to do this cutting portion, that's less time for you to do your magic. That's less time for you to do the things that you're like actually getting paid to do, or that you actually love to do if you're doing a personal project.
Most people hate editing not because of the fancy stuff you do to it, but because it's a lot of work of just taking out the crap and making like getting to a decent spot before you put all this the finishing touches on it, just taking out all the junk. How do you define success today, and how has that differed from say 4 or 5 years ago? I know that was a huge pivot.
Yeah, that's a big
I'm like,
it's a good question.
I'd love to hear your take on that though.
You know, most of my life, for me, success was just getting the bare minimum to look good done with the least amount of effort. So it wasn't that I was like, you know, I got good grades. I went to college and got good grades in college, and then I had a job and I did well at it for a while. Eventually I was fired because I knew that I was leaving, and I definitely dropped off at the end. But but like most of my life, I'd be like, hey, this is the benchmark that like the average person hits. What do I got to do to get a little bit beyond the benchmark with the least amount of effort? And so basically I would try and think my way out of work and get to strategies where like, okay, these are the best grades that I can get for the least amount of effort. You know, I can not turn in these assignments because these assignments aren't worth very much compared to how much work they are. But if I really crush it on the tests, then it'll make up for it. I was doing all this strategy in my head of like, how can I basically just be lazy without dropping the ball?
Yeah.
And that was my mindset most of my life. And I only flipped it around in the last like maybe not even 3 years. Like I realized that I need to change it like 3 years ago. And then while I've been an entrepreneur, I've actively worked to change my mindset around work. So you asked, what does success look like for me today? And I would say that for me to feel successful now, I need to be working on something that is meaningful, which basically just means something that I choose is meaningful. And I need to be happy with my level of effort. So it's pretty much the opposite of what I grew up with, where I was like, how do I look good? You know, how do I get good grades but with the least amount of effort? How do I do this well at work? You know, how do I hit quota at work?
You're hitting the benchmark. Yeah, the quota, that's a good word too.
Yeah, how do I hit quota but with the least amount of work? It's like, well, you know, I can automate all my emails to blast out all the time or whatever. And so what would end up happening is if you just try and get external goals for long enough, you reach a point where you haven't set a strong foundation for continued growth. So I was basically obsessed with outputs and tried to do the bare minimum with inputs. And I've flipped it around now. I don't have it nailed, but I've tried to get to the point where I focus only on what I do and not what the results are. Obviously, it's impossible to not think about the results at all, but I'm like, if I just focus on doing what I know will eventually lead success every day, like the things that I can control, because you can't really control outcomes, but you can control the effort you put in.
The input, sorry. Yeah.
So if I just focus on the inputs, that's like, I don't care if we closed a new deal, we got new users, we got whatever. Those things can happen. What I care about is what kind of work did I put in, and did I follow through on what I set out to do? A lot of days I don't reach those goals, but if I get 80% every day, like that's a lot of progression over time. And so I just try and stay consistent with putting in the work. And some days you really crush it and you get everything and a little bit extra done. And some days you don't quite get everything done that you were planning on doing. But my level of effort is what defines success for me. If I'm happy with how much I've been doing, then the outcomes can be whatever they are. Like, I'll live with the outcomes.
I recently heard it on actually LeBron James on his podcast, or the Mind the Game podcast.
Yeah.
The process is the reward. I love that quote. He's fallen in love with the process And of course, you strive after championships and after whatever. But at the end of the day, I mean, he's played in the NBA for 22 seasons and he's still dominating, right? The process is his reward. He's rewarded by, and that's what it fulfills him, is like just the process. So,
yeah, and I think that's the magic of building a fulfilling life, is finding a way to make the process fulfilling. And fulfilling is fulfillment is very different from happiness. Happiness is, people can define it in their own ways. Some people it's like hedonistic almost. Some people it's like almost this joyful level of just abiding love. It's kind of a term that's not super well defined. And for me, I always felt like if I'm focusing on happiness, then I just feel the lack of happiness. But if I focus on what's fulfilling, then like I can enjoy the struggle if I'm focused on fulfillment. Whereas if I'm focused on trying to be happy, every struggle that hits me just feels like it's getting me off track. Whereas with fulfillment, if I run into a struggle, I'm like, good, this is what I needed. This is making me grow in the way that I needed, and I can appreciate it. Doesn't mean that like I want to have struggles all the time, but whereas when I used to think before that I was, the pursuit of happiness, chasing happiness, anything that knocked me off my plan just felt like the world was unfair. But now when I'm chasing fulfillment, when I run into these unexpected things, it might take me a minute to get around to thinking this way, but I'll recognize like, oh, this is what I needed to grow. And because of that, like the struggles that hit me, they're still tough in the moment. I'm not going to pretend like I just like never get down. You know what I mean? But I can appreciate the struggles and like be thankful for them because they illuminate where I need to grow. Whereas before, any difficulty I ran into, I was just like, why can't things just be easy? I wanted things to be easy. But now, I don't want it to be easy. I want it to make me grow. And for it to make me grow,
might have to be hard.
Yeah. Some things have to be really hard. And, I still have to get myself to appreciate those moments. Like, by no means am I just like, yeah, bring on the hard all the time. That's not the case.
Hardcore.
Yeah. I'm not quite on the Goggins level, but, or even close, but I can at least appreciate those difficulties as like, yes, they're difficult, but they're also the exact things that are going to make me grow in the way that I need to. And so the person I am today versus the person I was 4 years ago, that's probably the largest shift. Like that guy was looking for the easy way, and who I am now is looking for the way that will make me grow the most.
I feel like human nature is we want something, and then we make ourselves feel incomplete without it. The lack of it in our lives makes us feel incomplete.
Yeah.
And then the search for that, it drives us crazy, but we also it's so obsessive. And then once you get the thing, whatever the thing might be, you have it. A month goes by, a week, whatever the timeline is, a year, who knows. And then you start to look around, you're like, this doesn't fulfill me. Like it doesn't fill me to the brim. Like you find the next thing and then the process repeats. You feel incomplete. And it's it's just self-inflicted.
There's a Naval quote where I think I'm going to butcher it, so I won't try. But basically the idea is like when you decide that you want something, you're like making a contract with yourself that you'll be unhappy until you get it. It's like, well, then what happens when you get it? You're happy for like a day, you party, and then you want something new. So it's like, well, what does that mean? It means like your life is just a string of unhappy periods followed by like one small moment of intense happiness and then unhappiness going like if you broke down your life into like moments spent happy or unhappy, it's going to be like 99% unhappy if you choose to live that way. And that's like how I was living. Like straight up, that's how I was. I was like, I'm not going to be happy until I'm successful in some random way or whatever. And it's like, yeah, no wonder I was depressed. No wonder I was fantasizing about driving off a cliff if like 99% of my time is miserable. Of course. Of course I feel that way. Whereas now it's like, I would say 99% of the time, I may not be like happy, may not be the right word, but I'm fulfilled because I know I'm heading in the right direction. I'm doing things to get it done. Definitely not a perfect level of effort or a perfect level of planning or understanding, but like we're going the right way.
You're going all in.
Yeah, and I'm very satisfied with the growth that I've made, and like I'm excited to live another 50, 60, however many years. Whereas 5 years ago I was like, I don't want to live another 2 years like this. You know, whereas now I'm like, if my life was, obviously some details will change, but like if it was the same level of like fulfillment for the rest of my life, man, that sounds like a phenomenal life to me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I see no reason for me to step back from this. Like being able to change my perspective has, like, I could be doing the exact same things, but the perspective makes it fulfilling now.
I enjoyed what you told me yesterday where you said something to the extent of you're doing the same things today as billionaire you will be in X amount of years.
Yeah.
However long until you're a billionaire, which I'm confident will come, but I like the mindset there.
Yeah. It's not about like, yeah, the label of billionaire is cool, but it's like,
sure.
Yeah, I'll share like a little bit of like the mental frame that I was using. I was talking with my fiance, which is cool to say. That's pretty fresh. But
That's
I was
awesome,
talking
dude.
with my fiance the other day of like, you know, if all of a sudden you had $1 billion, what would you do with your life? And we were talking about it, and I just realized, sure, I'd get a few new outfits so that I have more pants that fit me, and you know, I'd probably upgrade the car so I wasn't, because I got an older car, and you know, I might get a massage more often. But like in terms of like the daily, like I would still want to be building a company. I would still want to be spending my time with the people I spend my time with her, with Mike, with our other co-founder Race, with the other founders here at iHub, with my family, my brothers, their wives, my cousins. Like most of the way that I live my life now would not change if all of a sudden I had a ton of money. It would be, you know, we'd eat a little better, we'd dress a little better, we'd drive a little bit better cars. But the daily, I wouldn't want to work any less. I wouldn't want to be, you know what I mean? If anything, it would free me up to work more. And so like having that realization was like, whoa, like I'm living a billionaire's life in that way, technically.
In that sense, yeah.
Like I've found something that's so much more valuable than money, which is life purpose. And
Which is amazing, dude.
Yeah, and I discover more about myself every day. And it's not like people like to vilify people who are entrepreneurs or who make a lot of money. Not that I make a lot of money yet, but it's like this is the best vehicle for me to improve the world. Like I'm not going to be some famous person that can go like spearhead a movement. I don't want to be, at least. I guess I could be, but I don't want to be that. What I want to do is build things that actually make lives better. And that's what we're trying to do with Viddy. And eventually it'll grow to a point where it helps more than just individual professional creators. It'll be something that helps families because we'll employ people. It'll help communities. You know, like that's where we're trying to go. Now, whether we get there or not, we'll see what happens, but we're putting in those inputs to get there.
Was there a certain moment when you were miserable, you didn't know what was over the horizon, but you felt there was something missing? Was there a moment when you realized you wanted to start something of your own, or like said, what you're doing now, you're building? Like, was there a moment you knew you wanted to build, or was it more of a gradual, like, nah, something's got to change, but I don't know what yet?
I think I mentioned that I went to that thing with Mike and Truman, the mastermind for entrepreneurs. And the guy who was running the mastermind, his name is Ulysses, and he's like a PR expert. Ulysses Osuna, I think that's how you say his last name. Hopefully I didn't butcher it. But we spent that weekend with him and his team. Sorry, losing my voice.
Oh, you're good.
We spent that weekend with him and his team, and seeing the way that he not only helped these other entrepreneurs, but also like how everyone on his team was like inspired to be a better version of themselves. It was incredible seeing like some guy with like less than 10 employees. He wasn't like it's not like he was Zuckerberg or Elon Musk or, you know what I mean? He built a really cool business that made good money, and you know what I mean? But it was cool to see like in his little tiny zone of influence, like he was making other people able to reach their dreams. And even me as like just someone who was hired by a company that he hired. Like he didn't even hire me. He hired Temple Mill, and then Temple Mill hired me to come to the thing. Like seeing how the way that he moved and the way that he did things even just made me want to be better, made me want to level up. I was like, where else can you find this? I'm sure it's out there somewhere else, but to me it just seemed like entrepreneurship is the path to not just building something awesome, but also improving the lives of people all around you. And really like I want to make the world a better place. Like I find my significance through improving the lives of the people that are around me, and I believe that this is the best path both for me to feel successful and fulfilled, and also to be able to improve and help the people closest to me. And if my brothers were here, you could ask them, like, how have I changed over the past 2.5 years? I feel like not only have I become a better entrepreneur, of course, and more fulfilled personally, but I'm pretty sure that by me chasing my dreams, that I've inspired my brothers. Seeing them go after their dreams in their lanes have inspired me. Like, by no means am I putting myself on a pedestal. Like, they're phenomenal people. And it's the same thing with Mike and Race. Seeing them do the awesome things that they do with Viddy has inspired me. And they've told me that seeing the way that, I'm growing has inspired them to want to grow. I'm like, that's phenomenal. Like, if Viddy failed today, I would have no regrets about this chapter of life, because I've grown, my fiance's grown, my brothers have grown, my co-founders have grown, Other people have probably grown that I'm not even aware of from seeing our journey or just being around us. You've grown.
I've grown. I've definitely grown.
And the other founders that are in iHub with us, like, I've helped them with their things.
That's incredible. Yeah.
It's been awesome to see them grow. And so, yeah, it's just like, I love seeing people reach their potential, or more importantly, actually, I want to change that. I love seeing people strive to grow and reach their potential. Like, actually reaching it is less of a big deal, because that's more of an outcome. Actually reaching it is less important than seeing them go for it. And yeah, that moment, that being at that mastermind, like, opened my eyes to how positive of an impact one entrepreneur can have on almost everybody that he runs into.
And I think, the phrase "reach your potential" has almost like a certain connotation with it, like, oh, you've made it, like you've arrived or something. I like your little change there of, like, strive to grow, because that's the thing that a lot of people will get wrong, is like, or I don't want to say get wrong, but maybe just like don't quite comprehend. And I'm totally guilty of this myself. You always I always used to look for like 5 tips to do this, or how to do this that will like A to Z, the complete guide, right? To do anything in life. I mean, within a career, within like a hobby, within a some sort of startup or whatever. But yeah, it's just like a pursuit, like the constant pursuit, the relentless, continuous like pursuit of like it's just an effort. It's the process of it all.
Yeah. Hormozy has this thing that I'm trying to fully adopt. It like logically I'm like that would be such a great way to think. I'm not quite there, but I'm trying to fully incorporate it into my psyche, right?
Sure.
Where he's like, why do you work? Why do you do the things that you do? He's like, is it to reach some sort of financial goal, some sort of whatever? What is the outcome you're chasing? And he's like, if you have an outcome that you're chasing, then you're going to be like frustrated. You're going to be in that unhappy, unsatisfied place until you reach that outcome. And his thing is the work is the goal. And I'm trying to align myself with that, where like the way I define success, like you asked, I'm trying not to make it be like, Viddy succeeds or whatever. I'm trying to get myself to truly believe like that doing my best is the goal, and whatever long-term outcomes come from that, like we'll take them. And I love that frame, because if you're always doing, like if your whole life is spent doing something for the sake of something else, what if you die before you get that thing that you're going after? Like, let's say that you're like, I am working hard because I want to be a billionaire. It's a really lofty goal. Most people, no matter how hard they work, are not going to be a billionaire. But if somebody actually worked really hard and they were chasing their potential, chasing their dreams, and that's how they measured success, they would die with a beautiful life that they've lived. No, even if they ended up only making $1 million, like it wouldn't matter what the end number was, right? Because the whole time they were aligned, they were chasing their greatest, they were chasing their potential. And it's really hard to actually 100% live according to that. It's like really hard to not want the outcomes. It's like
sure,
to not want the nice house and the nice car and the whatever, but I just try and like realign to that of why am I doing this? Because the doing is the reward, not the result of doing, but the actual doing is the reward. And I'm not there yet, but I've been able to shift where I was totally result focused before. I'm like maybe like 80% focused on the work and 20% focused on the result now.
Sure. You don't want to lose sight of your goals or the outcome. I think too many people, they get associated with whatever they're associated with because they're attracted to the lifestyle of like the 1% that's made it past all the work, and then they show off the lifestyle, and that, certain amount of people get in because they see that and they don't understand the work that goes into it. And there's been periods of my like progression, career, whatever you want to call it, with video creation, where I've had to like overcome this mental, I guess obstacle is the right word, where it's like I get so attached, or I still do at times. It's so hard to like detach yourself from it, but like you just get so attached to the views or the comments, or even if it's not that, like there's a million different measurements that you can measure success by, that you can acquaint it with. And then at the end of it's like, after, like, that's one of the quickest ways to get burnt out, honestly, is just even if it's not views or likes or comments or any sort of social media matrix, there's always something false that's like totally not anyways. But
there's always, what do we call them, vanity metrics.
Yeah, exactly.
There's always something whether it's some sort of streak or some sort of numbers of things posted or likes on a whatever or shares or subscribers or whatever. There's always some
clients or
random
outreach.
arbitrary. Yeah, there's some random arbitrary number, and those can be really useful as like measuring sticks and for analytics and that sort of stuff. But I mean, you're going to get a lot further if you're like, I just want to make 1,000 videos over the course of 10 years and do my best on each one. You're going to get a lot further than if you're like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get 10 million subscribers. Like,
exactly.
All right,
dude.
then, I mean, like Mike always used the example of like, oh, you want to go viral? Go slap an old lady in Walmart. That'll get you attention. Do you want to be known for that? You know what I mean? So if you're only results
Virality,
focused,
yeah.
if you're only results focused, then
That's good to know. It's that easy,
soul.
right?
I mean, you slap enough old ladies, you'll go viral. I promise you. Don't do that.
It's a numbers game.
Yeah. Don't do that. You don't want to be known as that.
No.
You might get attention because you're going to jail. But
that's a good way to put it, though. That's a good way to look at it. Like, why are you doing what you're doing?
Mm-hmm. Don't be going and slapping old ladies. Just
I'll have to keep that in mind. This is another one of those Big Brother moments.
Yeah.
From you.
Don't be. That ain't the way.
Even if it's just quick. I loved your take yesterday when I jokingly brought up the tariffs thing because everybody's freaking out about the tariffs. And your response is the best one I've heard yet.
I don't remember exactly what I said, but my approach may be flawed. Some people are going to hate it. But my approach with politics, tariffs, the economy, stock market, crypto, whatever, all these things that get a ton of headlines, but I have no control over, I stay vaguely aware of them so I know what's going on, and then I don't spend any extra brain power on it. Because if you want to do something great, and you get to define what great is, but I guarantee you, anyone who's real with themselves is not going to define anything great as being easy. But if you want to do something great, it requires focus. And if you're spending all of your brain power on world events, not that you should be ignorant and have no idea what's going on.
Sure.
But like if you are spending all of your brain power, all of your mental bandwidth on things that you have no control over and can't get control over, then that means that effort and that focus is not spent on something you can control. So it's like, whatever your political beliefs are, you can be like, this is the most important thing in the world, whatever. I'm not saying this is not important. What I'm saying is the best thing I can do is be the best me. That's how I'm going to change the world. If my goal is to change the world, if my goal is to make the world a better place, the best thing I can do is be the best version of me. And the best version of me is not sitting around watching CNN or Fox News or whatever, wherever you get your news. The best version of me is not sitting around arguing about policies that I have no control over. The best version of me is going out, growing as a person, and working on something, building something that will make the lives of people around me better. So, tariffs, politics, whatever, international trade, whatever the hot headlines are, I'm like, it's good to have an idea of what's going on, especially when you're in the business world. You like need to have a loose idea.
You need to be aware.
Yeah,
sure.
Of what's happening. But I don't spend my time like discussing what to do about all these things, or maybe what to do in my own personal life, but I don't go around discussing like all the nuance and like all that stuff. maybe there's a future version of me that looks back on this and is like, you're an idiot. And if that's the case, then awesome. I'm glad that the future version of me is more intelligent than I am. But at least in this phase, it just is not something I can afford to spend my brain on. And that includes like,
I don't think anybody should be able to afford that much time and brain power on that. Yeah.
I mean, the president, because that's what.
Well, yes, but
yeah. Yeah, please, politicians don't have the same approach as me. I hope that you're doing your job.
I hope they're putting in their due diligence to our
please try and make the world a better place.
But everybody who's just so far removed from that process and the decision making of which is 99.999% of everybody.
Yeah.
Should just, and I don't know a ton of people that are super, super involved, but
yeah.
Watch videos and you look at all the comments and you're like, dude, you guys need to get a freaking life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit extreme in this way. You probably don't know this, but I don't watch TV, and that includes like Netflix. And I only watch movies with other people. Like for me, it must be a social thing. I just don't. Well, I can't say that I don't enjoy watching that stuff alone. It's because I know that I would get sucked in, and like
self-control thing then.
Yeah, and like the news and all the TV shows and whatever is trending, like that stuff can suck you in like nothing else. I'm definitely not immune to it.
Sure.
And it just ends up taking up so much time, but sometimes even worse than the time it takes up, because you can be like, oh, I'll watch a 20-minute Netflix show, but
4 hours later.
Yeah, I mean, it can snowball for sure. But even if it didn't, that has an effect on your mood and, like, affects your mind. And so I'm not saying that you got to be dialed every second of every day and never have any fun. And I'm not demonizing what people want to do.
You're a product of your environment, and you're a product of the stuff you put into yourself.
Yeah. But, like, I try to avoid, like, I stay loosely aware of what's going on in the world, but I try to avoid letting any sort of thing bring me down on the day-to-day that's totally external that I have no control over.
Yeah.
Not always great at it, but I just try to avoid that because it's like I can't control it, and now it's controlling me. Now it's affecting my life. It's like, and if I didn't know about that, it wouldn't change anything. So I just choose to be like not involved. I just choose not to pay that much attention to that stuff. And so
totally respect that.
I feel like generally I don't have super high highs or super low lows, and I think part of that is I don't get pulled into these crazy like emotional cycles that the news world goes into, because I'm just like, oh, I know stuff's going on, but leave me out of it. I'm not gonna spend a whole weekend just deep diving into whatever random current events.
One of the best things you can be, in my opinion, for a business, for yourself, for everybody around you, is consistent and even keel. And more power to you, man. That's awesome. That's great. Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned LeBron before, and
he's showed up consistently for 22 years. Love him or hate him. I mean, I know a lot of people that don't like him, and that's great and that's fine, but
yeah, I mean, I grew up.
You got to tip your hat to him at the end of the day.
Yeah, I grew up as a Lakers fan. Like my earliest sports memories are Shaq and Kobe, and so LeBron is like an interesting thing as a Lakers fan, because we hated him before because it was like we felt like he was stealing the limelight from Kobe, but now he's on the team, and it's like we also won a championship, and there's a good chance that he wins another one in the next 2 years, I think. But regardless of what you think of his personality, his politics, or his career, like you can look at his consistency, and like almost all of his arguments for being the greatest player of all time and almost all of his records are like all longevity based. And not all of them, but like most of them are like, he has the most points of all time. Well, yeah, he's played, I think he's matched the longest career ever, and he's probably got 5 more years. Like he's still like first team all NBA level right now, which is nuts.
Yeah.
And then you look at all of his stuff, it's like he's just been doing it for so long. And every one of his teams, he was the linchpin of the team. I was like, to be the linchpin of that many different teams, that many different situations, that many different teammates, that is incredibly impressive. I personally love Kobe way more, but you have to respect like his consistency, and he does not cheat the game. Like he's a guy who clearly isn't just there for the results. He's clearly there for the process. And
clearly, yeah.
I respect that about him a lot.
I saw that he leaves the game as soon as it's over, or even like the final seconds. He's into that locker room, and it was a controversial topic. And on his most recent podcast, he came out and he said he was being asked about that, and he's like, "Yeah, as soon as the game's over, I'm preparing for the next game. Like I don't dwell on even if it's a win, if it's a loss. Like, yeah, he shows up even when he shows up every day, no matter the outcome. He puts the work in. Yeah."
And
something to admire in any sort of profession, any sort of sport or business level. It's something to admire for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And at the same time, he rests. He takes his rest days.
Best recovery is rest. Yeah.
Yeah. He takes his rest days during the season. Like every year he disappears for a little while and gets some work done. He comes back playing better than he was before. And everybody's like, what did he do? It's like, well, he just recovered a little bit. I don't know. But he's always ready when the playoffs come. Like, I don't think he's ever missed a playoff game because of injury. I might be wrong, but
I think you're right, honestly.
And that is insane because how many times has he been to the playoffs? Like 20 times in 22 years or something like that. Like he's only
ridiculous amount of times.
Yeah, he's only missed a few times, and he's gone deep into the playoffs so many times. So. Yeah, I think like there's a lesson in there too of like be consistent, but also deliberately prepare for that like high leverage moments. Like the playoffs are more high leverage than the regular season, but you need to play well in the regular season to get to the playoffs. And it's like it's how you train your team. And so there's always a balance of like not burning out right before the biggest moments. So yeah, there's so many things you can pull from sports. It's crazy.
I actually scripted the other day. I still need to post it, but I scripted a LinkedIn post that correlates the similarities between basketball and business, because I enjoy playing basketball, just pick up ball with a couple friends on Saturdays mornings or whatever. But it's like there's a lot of similarities. I mean, the fact that from what I see, the fact that you can get between 6 and 10 people on the court one time, everybody's playing their best, or you hope everybody's playing their best, all for the same team or two collective teams, but at the end of the day, you pat each other on the back for that. Oh, that was a killer steal, or man, I can't believe you did that pull-up shot like that, or whatever. There's way more you could pull from that. This is just it's in a small LinkedIn post that's just like 2 or 3 things that I gathered from a Saturday morning of me sucking while trying to play with friends. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, sports. Yeah, I think it's sad that sometimes sports get demonized as just like a thing for dudes to waste their time on, because there's so many lessons that can come from it. And I didn't really get as much of an opportunity as a lot of kids to play sports because I moved a lot as a kid. And I missed 2 seasons in a row of every sport, and I never recovered. I was just behind forever. And then eventually I became I got into middle school and it was just well, if you're not a sports dude, then you're not playing it that much,
Yeah.
And so I missed out on some of the lessons that come from sports, and I had to make up that lost ground as an adult. And it was tough because sports teach you how to work with a team. They teach you how to overcome your fears. They teach you how to show up and work and do things that are uncomfortable even when you don't want to do them. You know, they teach you how to respect your opponent or respect other people who might not be your teammates or might not be like helping you. It teaches you so much. And I think, like, for me personally, one of the biggest things that I missed out on was learning how to take my fears head on. And like, I was incredibly full of fear for like my whole childhood, even my early adult life. Like, the first big time that I looked fear in the face and jumped anyway was, we talked about this the other day, but the first time I looked fear in the face and jumped anyway was when I moved to Japan for a summer. I bought a 90-day round trip ticket, and I didn't even know. I had like 2 nights in a hostel set up, and my cousin happened to be living in Tokyo, and he had a love seat that he said I could crash on for 2 nights. That was it. I had the first 4 days out of 90 planned, and other than that, I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't have enough money to stay in hostels or Airbnbs the whole time. I needed to find a way to live somewhere for free or make money. Make money was kind of off the table because I didn't have a visa. So I had heard about this program called WOOF, which is like, I think it stands for something like Worldwide Organic Farming or Farmers, something like that. But basically it's like a system where you can go live with a local family that owns a farm. You work on their farm with them, and they give you a place to stay, and they feed you at night, and you like live with the family. Like, you're not living separate. Like, you're with them, you know, you're at the meals, you're in their house, you're interacting with them, you're working out in the field with them. Really cool, because you get like a true native experience of wherever you are.
Yeah. Not a tourist trap version.
No, very.
Or the highlights of the country. You get the real thing.
Very different from the normal tourist stuff. Like,
which is sometimes actually, I mean, it's funner in a way.
It was way more fun for me, personally.
We went to Hawaii, my wife and I, last year, and we did all these different beaches and parks and went to the Polynesian Cultural Center and whatever. Stayed on Waikiki, which is like the busiest place or the most touristy place, I should say, in Honolulu on Oahu. But the funnest thing we did was we went to a local college football game. And
that would be fun.
It was like, it was unlike any other college ball game of any sport that I'd ever been to. You had the actual locals there cheering on their team. It was one of the funnest things of actually being there. It was really, really cool. And it was like, it was so unplanned too. We got there and I was like, oh, it'd be cool to go to a Rainbow Warriors game. That's the name of their team, their mascot. Hawaii Rainbow Warriors is their thing.
Yeah.
And Corey, my wife, was like, let's see if we can go. I looked it up and I was like, there's one this Friday. Like, we should go. We were both so on board with it. It was one of our favorite. Anyways, not to take away from what you're saying.
No,
because that was an evening. You spent 3 months in this country, but
but that's exactly what it's about.
It's about being around the culture more. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because no hate to the touristy stuff. I've done that too, and it can be really cool and eye-opening, and
sure.
It's also valuable, you know. So there's nothing wrong with going and doing travel in that way. It's just so cool that there's more than one way to do it, and you can find 100%. The way that fits you. And for me, living on a little peach orchard, a little farm out in this tiny little town called Fuefki was way more awesome than the time that I spent in Tokyo, personally. Some people are going to, like, Tokyo was sick, so I'm not hating on Tokyo at all, but like being able to live in their house, they had like a 400-year-old house that had been passed down generations. Slept on a tatami mat for part of it, slept on a futon for part of it. You know, I woke up in the morning, saw the sunrise, went out in the orchard, and we were like pruning in the trees and stuff. And then as the season went on, we like canned the peaches, or they turned them into jam, or whatever. They did all the things. I got to watch this whole process happen. And then at night we'd all get together, and there were other people like me from like other countries like Thailand or Singapore, or there was someone from Hong Kong, and a guy from France. And anyway, there was other people doing the same thing as me, and we'd all sit around this wood table that was like passed down in their family, and they'd cook us this delicious home cooking, and we'd just chill around the table, and everybody's speaking Japanese with a bunch of different random accents and different skill levels, you know, and we'd just sit around the table, eat delicious food, speak Japanese together. And man, it was so fun, because every day was something that I never could have experienced here in the United States.
Otherwise.
And over time, like when I landed in Japan, part of the reason I was so scared is I'd taken a few classes at BYU in college. And so I thought that I could speak a little bit. And the last class that I took, like the main thing that we studied was how to give and receive directions, which I was like, this is sweet. This is the main thing I need. This is going to get me to
Seems
where
like
I'm going.
Actually applicable. Yeah.
So useful, right? So I was like, I'm feeling good. I aced my final. Like I crushed it in that class, did a good job. So I was feeling good, you know. And then I get off the plane and I walk over to the ladies who sell like the bus tickets. And I was asked them, how do I get to this place where my hostel was? And I was like, Sakura doko desu ka? Which is just, where is Sakura, which is the name of the town. And they understood me, so that was good. But whatever they said after, I was like, I got no idea what's going on. Like, I thought you were just going to tell me, go here. But they started going off, and I was like, oh, no. I just signed up to be here 90 days, and I can't even understand the only thing that I learned. So finally, after a lot of pointing and like very animated talking between the two of the girls at the counter, I recognized them saying the word for train, which is densha, and then they were pointing. And so like I looked over and I was like, I saw a little sign that said, okay, go like downstairs and ride the subway, basically. And I thought they were going to walk with me and show me where to go, but they just kept pointing, and I just walked off on my own. And I got on the train, and I just started walking up to people on the train with my phone, showing them the address. And I was like, how do I get here? And eventually like somebody just like grabbed my hand, and this lady grabbed my hand and sat with me until we got to the right stop. And then she stood up and pushed me off the train. And I was like, I guess I'm here. And so then I looked on Google Maps, and I didn't have any service because I'd ordered a SIM card beforehand to pick up in the airport. But my plane arrived late, and the place where you pick up the SIM card was closed. So I had no service. And so I was relying off the free Wi-Fi. And so I downloaded like the Google Maps directions on my phone using the free Wi-Fi in the train station. And then I walked to the hostel, and I made it there amazingly. And then a few days later is when I went to that house with when I went and lived with that family with the peach orchard. And so that gives you an idea of how bad my Japanese was when it started. But by the end, like, we were having hours-long conversations in Japanese. Obviously not perfect, you know.
Sure.
Made many mistakes, used the wrong words all the time. Pronunciation was bad, all that stuff. But we could struggle through it. And you just don't learn that quickly if you're not immersed in their world. And so I love that family. I love that experience there. And that was my first like true experience of jumping into something that terrified me and just doing it anyway. And anyway, we started with like sports and how awesome they are. But like I had to get that lesson and experience of overcoming fear as an adult And it would have been so much nicer to get that as a kid. So I fully intend to raise my kids, participating in sports. They don't have to do a specific one. I don't care.
Sure.
But
something to take them through that experience of pushing through, and whether you like it or not, yeah. What experience or what did you bring back from your Japan experience that you feel like helped shape you? If there's one thing you could say.
There is one thing. After that crazy trip to Japan, where I was constantly uncomfortable for the whole 3 months, I mean, there were moments of it being like fun and not so stressful, but it was not like a easy chill trip. It was intense. The biggest thing that I gained from that trip was, after that, no matter what kind of difficulties or crazy daunting things came my way, I had this confidence that I could find a way through it. It might be a struggle. Like, I might not do it in the most graceful way, but whatever happened, I could get through it. And that has only grown and improved since then. Like, I thought that I was pretty solid back then, but who I am now, I'm like, I can take on a whole lot more and, stare into the face of difficulty way more than I used to be able to. But that was the beginning of that. It was like, no matter how crazy it gets, I will always get through. And it may not be glamorous or graceful, but I'll get through it. And that's not just for me. Like, that applies to everyone. Like, you're here today, which means you've survived everything you've ever been through. You think back to anything where you're like, how am I going to handle this? You look back at it now, you handled it. You're through it, Even if you're going through it right now, there's a future version of you that looks back on whatever struggle you're in at the moment, thankful that you went through the struggle, and like, you just keep moving forward. It doesn't matter what kind of struggles come, what kind of difficulties happen, you will get through it. And on the off chance that you don't get through it, you'll be dead and it won't matter anyway.
Right. Right. I love that we talked about that yesterday too. Like, exactly what you're saying. Like, so what if the world implodes, or if the world ends tomorrow?
Yeah.
Guess what? You're dead. Like, it's over. Like, what do you want your last days to feel like? Like, how? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing. It's like, you will survive every difficulty that you ever have until you don't, and then it won't be difficult anymore. It's like, at the point where you can't handle what's going on, you'll be dead. And then all your problems will be gone anyway. Regardless of what you believe, like, this life will be over. And so no matter what you believe, like, whatever struggles you're dealing with here, you're either going to get through them all, or when you finally run into that one that you can't get through, it'll be over anyway. And for me, for some people, they're like, that stresses me out because I'm like, what's next? But for me, I'm just like, I don't need to think too much about what's next. I just need to have full confidence that I'll get through this too. And on the off chance that I don't, I will be dead and it won't matter anyway.
Right.
Yeah. And some people are like, oh, that's so sad to think that way. I'm like, for me, I feel like it's a relief, and it makes me
instead of being afraid all the time.
Yeah, it makes me thankful to have this beautiful gift that life is. Like, life is an incredible thing.
It's a beautiful,
that we get
fragile
to
thing.
experience. Yeah. I could have been dead multiple times before this. I could have just not been born. How many times have I driven in a car and somebody cut me off, or I made a stupid move? Like, there's so many times that I could have been dead up to this point. So every day is a blessing, and we forget that, and people say it and it feels like a cliche, but like, you could you could just be dead, but you're not. So make the most of it, and one day you will be dead, and whatever you're struggling with will be over.
Right. I can't think of a better way to end it, dude.
All right.
I mean, I can't think of anything else to talk about. Well, I can think of a lot of things to talk about, but I can't think of anything else to add to this particular conversation.
Yeah.
Unless you can. I mean, this has been great.
No, I'll just say, like, thank you for driving down, making it happen, for, being one of the earliest and strongest supporters of what we're trying to build with Viddy. And it's been really cool, like, to become friends throughout that process,
100%.
Yeah, it's been super fun, and I look forward to doing many more collaborations in many different ways as the years go on. And if anybody's watching this and they're like, I don't know what to do with my life, I highly recommend reading The Alchemist and doing the Blue Sky session. What were the 3 things? If you can't fail, you had no fear.
Fear, money,
and money
fail.
was no object.
Yeah.
What would you build? What would you do with your life? I think
that's a pretty powerful thing to hear.
Yeah. Shout out to Landon, by the way, and Connor DeLynn.
Do you know if they stole that or if that was theirs?
I don't know. It's probably a Tony Robbins. I don't know, but they taught it to me, and they're
cool
2 of my most important mentors, and 2 people that I really respect and look up to. And they make me want to be a better person, just like that other entrepreneur I talked about, Ulysses. Like, they make me excited for the ups, the downs, and especially the struggles of entrepreneurship, because I can't wait to grow and see the future version of myself that's like just crushing it in ways that I wish I was right now.
Yeah.
So, yep, shout out to Landon and Connor and Ulysses and
dudes.
Mike. They're 4 people that have inspired me and helped me a lot and helped me reach new heights and grow as a person.
I remember last year, right when Landon was coming out he was rolling out HCC, Happy Creative Coaching. And I was like trying to justify to myself the price tag of like $250 a month. And at the time I was like, man, like that's like a lot. But I was like, there was some part of me that just said, no, just take a chance. Like, just do it. Like, you don't want to be here like a year from now thinking like, what if, for whatever reason. And now I look back at it now and I'm like, some of like my most like fondest connections within the creative industry came from Happy Creative.
Yeah.
And I got to meet, was it you or Matt that told me like kill your heroes?
Matt. Yeah, that's
a cool concept too, of like, and I'm sure I'm going to butcher this, you know it better than me, but like the concept of meeting the people that you put on this pedestal and being able to humanize them.
Yeah.
And say they could still be heroes, sure, but kill your heroes, meaning don't keep them on this pedestal. Like they're people just like us. They're trying just like us. And that was a cool thing to do with Landon and with some of the other people that I admired in the industry. I was like, it was just a cool experience that I would never, I don't care. Like I don't miss that money at all that I spent on Happy Creative. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't regret, I think I would have regretted not, or maybe not. I wouldn't have known what I missed out on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just jumping in, just taking a small chance on myself in that regard.
Yeah, and I think, well, part of the reason that it was so great was you made the most of it,
We had such a tight-knit group, too. We had like half a dozen of us that were there. 100 and something people signed up for it.
Yeah.
And throughout the lifespan of it. But there was about a dozen or so of us that became real close throughout that, which was cool.
Yeah, it was really cool because it's rare to find a group of people where you feel like no one is holding back. And that was that core group of people in Happy Creative. And yeah, it was an awesome experience, and it's transformed into a new phase.
Yeah, they're in a new phase now.
Yeah, I don't have any inside information, but I have a feeling that we're going to see a lot more really awesome stuff from FTF and Landon and Connor and Bryson and Hunter. Those guys, I think we're going to see some really cool things in the near future.
For sure.
And I'm just thankful that we had that experience, met some really cool people, and it's the kind of thing that we can take whatever other groups we're in, whatever other places we go of like, right. I don't know how he did it, but somehow he got people to drop their egos, share their secrets, and be vulnerable, like share their struggles too.
Mm-hmm.
And
there's never any animosity. I've been in other coaching programs since and prior to that. And there's just a different, absolutely nothing against the other ones that I've been a part of. But he did something that I've never witnessed before. Like exactly what you're saying. Like he brought people together in a way that was entirely unique to him that I've never witnessed before, which is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I could brag about him all day because he's become like a friend, and he's just a good dude who is. Yeah, the thing is, kill your heroes, but Landon is the rare hero where you meet him and you're like, man, he's cooler than I thought. Like, I already thought he was cool, but he's...
Right.
And anyway, shout out to Landon. He's a stud. And...
shout out to Landon.
Yeah. He's a good dude. And we wouldn't be friends if it hadn't been for him.
We would have never met.
Yeah. So, I think I don't have anything else to say, really.
I don't think I do either.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, man, coming on.
Dude, I appreciate you driving down. This is the second time you drove down to do something dope with me. One time to help with Viddy, and now to do this podcast. And hopefully we can drive up to you and do something cool in the near future. Like
that would be
We've
awesome.
been talking about it, so Mike and I'll have to find a way to pop up there and do something.
For sure. Now I've got 2 drives on you guys.
Yeah, it's true. We're behind by 2.
One time it was...
You got a scoreboard right now.
Yeah, that's right. I'll hold that over your heads. Thanks for listening to Success is a Myth. If you're not already subscribed to YouTube, subscribe to YouTube because the video is way funner to watch than just the audio is to listen to. Seriously, video podcasts are so much funner to watch than audio is to listen to. So go ahead and subscribe on YouTube.